So again, whenever you start any activity, then it's good to start with reminding ourselves of our motivation, why we engage in the spiritual path. And you need to be honest with yourself. I mean, if you're just looking for a bit of peace and tranquility, then that's fine. You need to be really clear about what you're in it for, what you expect out of it. Because it's based on that kind of clarity and honesty that you'll have the ability to reach your goal in the end. You'll be much more likely to achieve your aims if you're honest with yourself. For example, we might think that having this Mahayana Bodhisattva motivation is something really wonderful. It is, of course, it's wonderful. It sounds good to us. But if we ask ourselves really honestly, then the question is, are we really able to engage in that path? And of course, now it's difficult for us to give up our everything, our lives, our well-being for the benefit of others. But eventually, if that's our goal, then there is a path, even though we're not able to do that from the outset. And likewise, you might just be fed up with samsara and, want to escape that. And you may not even believe that there's something called samsara and nirvana. However, you do want to sort of experience well-being in this life at least. These are all really valid kind of motivations. You can say that some are higher than others, but they're not really higher than others. It's all dependent on the individual, right? Where we are on the path. So let's say that some motivations are more appropriate. So if I don't believe in past and future lives, and I don't believe in karma, cause and effect, and I don't believe in the Bodhisattva Yana, then I'm kidding myself on to say that I want to achieve awakening for the benefit of all beings. However, I can progress slowly. I can start where I am, recognizing first that I have to understand suffering. Well, that's what the Buddha said. The first truth is know suffering, understand suffering. That's where we all have to start. If you feel like you're absolutely fine and life is wonderful, then you've got no reason to better yourself, right? But there's very few people who are like that. And I think people who think that are kind of kidding themselves on. It's a little bit like, I'm all right, don't worry about me, I'm okay, sort of attitude we have. But underneath that, there's a lot of suffering. Fake says, I hope that I pronounced that correctly, my motivation is to help all sentient beings. I think we should all rejoice in that. Rejoicing is really important. But I don't see myself capable of doing so. Well, you know what? If you listen to the Buddha, you are. Eventually you are. Have belief in yourself. You have to start with where you are and then progress. And if it comes down to it, what we're talking about is bodhicitta, right? Bodhicitta is love and compassion. And first, you have to have love and compassion for yourself. Then once you have that, then you can spread that outwards. We always start from the center, where we are here, in this subjective experience. If I hate myself, I'm really hard on myself, I'm always banging myself on the head, first thing I need to do is I need to have love for myself. So first you have this appreciation and love for yourself, and then you should be able to love, naturally many of us love our sort of children, our lovers, our mothers and fathers, but some of us don't even love our parents, right? So for some people, their parents are their enemies. I mean, that sounds a bit strange for people who come from Himalayan mountains, etc. Having that intention is the starting point. Remind yourself of that intention when you begin your day, whenever you practice, whenever you apply mindfulness. Start off with thinking, I must apply myself to the benefit of others. And naturally it will evolve. And it will evolve slowly or quickly, but you will get there in the end. Don't see myself capable of doing so. However, all other motivations are insufficient for me. Well, that's wonderful. To recognize that at first is the most important thing. To understand what you see to be important. And then you've got to work at finding a way in there. There's a series of videos I made on bodhicitta. I made a playlist on the channel, so you can always visit there and just review those. It lays out the basic principles of generating bodhicitta. This will be one of the topics of the retreat in September. The two wings of Buddhism. That's method and wisdom, or you can say emptiness and compassion. Right? These two kind of sides. of the Bodhidharma. And on the compassion side, then we have the teachings on generating bodhicitta. This actually teaching on the bodhicitta includes both of these, method and wisdom, because ultimate bodhicitta is wisdom and relative bodhicitta is method. In fact, anything that you interact with has these two aspects. This is related to our meditation. This is related to the middle way that's free of the two extremes. So it's all relative. Anyway, so the main point here is know where you are, understand what your intention is, and then make aspirations. And by making those aspirations, then slowly, 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 you will achieve your goal and you will develop the ability. And if you believe in past and future lives, then if you have that sincere intention in this life, then it will naturally come back to you in future lives. You're born with what is called the Mahayana disposition. This Mahayana disposition is really important. So there's the famous story of the teacher of Atisha. So Atisha was the Pandita who traveled to Tibet and kind of purified the mistakes of the early progression of Buddhism into Tibet. He kind of made it real again, purified it. Things had gone a little bit awry, and he came in on the second wave of teachings into Tibet. And he introduced these teachings on bodhicitta. Now his teacher, one of his teachers, Dhammarakshita, was a Hinayanist, so a Theravada practitioner, which is not motivated by the kind of Mahayana motivation or bodhicitta, this wish to achieve final enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. But Dhammarakshita had this natural disposition. And so he had heard that somebody in the area was dying of a fatal disease, and the doctor had said that they needed the flesh from a living human being to cure him. And Dhammarakshita immediately offered up his own flesh. So I guess this is a bit like kind of some kind of transplant we would do these days. But in those days, then they didn't have this sophisticated surgery and anesthetics. So although he immediately wanted to give away his flesh, a piece of flesh off his thigh or whatever it's taught in the text, then he suffered greatly for it. He had no anesthetic. And of course, the wound festered. It was really painful. And the reason why I was taught that it was painful is because he hadn't realized emptiness. If he had realized emptiness, he wouldn't have suffered. But based on having been able to do that, then he realized emptiness eventually and the view of the Mahayana. So he had this natural Mahayana disposition. Now, I'm not telling you to cut flesh off your body, please. Also, I'm not asking you to go out and donate your organs. It's something for you to decide. It's just an example or a story, the way it's taught in the Bodhidharma. And this isn't really ancient history. It's quite a famous story about Atisha. He also traveled to Indonesia to visit his teacher, Serlingpa. So you can imagine how difficult that would have been, 1,000 years ago.